Hello and welcome to Summit Live. This is our 15th episode. Today is October 6th, 2020, and we are broadcasting once again from our corporate headquarters in Whippany, New Jersey. We are broadcasting live on our website, on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We hope you have enjoyed the previous 14 episodes. Today, we will have with us corporate interior designer Lisbeth Jimenez from TPG Architecture in New York. But before we introduce Lisbeth, let me please once again, as always, introduce my co-host, Alan Smith, who's with us. And of course, Alan is our market development manager. I always have trouble with that title, and he always looks at me.
We played around with that title for a while.
And of course, we have with us, as always, Rocco, our mascot, our pooch, and our saved dog from St. Hubert's in Morristown. So without further ado, let's welcome in Lisbeth Jimenez from TPG. Hello,
hey,
Lisbeth.
Hi, and hi, everyone.
Yeah, welcome.
Nice
Thank you so much for doing this.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Thank you guys for having me.
I love your eyewear today.
Thank you.
That seems to be your trademark a little bit, is it not?
Yeah, this is the latest and newest addition to my collection. Actually,
you know what? Just before when I was doing a little homework for the show, I was looking at an episode you did on NBC called, what's it called? George
to the Rescue.
George to the Rescue, when you were wearing black that day.
Yes, and actually,
I'm sorry.
I lost that pair after that show, so I got a new one, black, and then after that I decided to get a green version and this white version.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, I was expecting the black version today. You might have just seen a picture that was just put up on screen by Oliver, who's working the board today. We welcome you. We know that you are a corporate interior designer at TPG, which is one of the nation's actually largest interior design firm and architectural firm based in New York City. But I do know too that you do a lot of specialty work with nonprofits. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing for that?
Yes. Actually, my very first pro bono project was back in 2013. I was still a student, and somebody that I used to have a class with brought up this project for the Bowery Mission Women's Center, and I was immediately interested in it. And the idea of just helping people that wouldn't necessarily hire interior design services was, new to me, but it was a learning experience, as a student. But the overall experience was one of the major learning aspects in my career. You can see, these pictures here where I'm like installing floor tiles. I learned to do a spackle on the wall. And these are things that you don't necessarily do as an interior designer, but certainly helps you appreciate, means and methods, and understand the details of constructions in a way that otherwise you really can't understand.
I always find it interesting to learn about what you do and what designers do. Even though we work with you all the time, there's still a sort of like mysterious aspect about what goes behind the imaginative side of it. But then you're talking about doing very hands-on practical work as well. Is that common, semi-commonplace in the design world?
It's not common at all. The only reason why, we did it and we have done it in other projects is because there was no budget for construction. So we had to get our hands dirty in order to bring up the design solutions that we proposed. And we did have a budget, but then you have to kind of like allocate what you want to spend that money on, right? So like if I can install something myself, like I'd rather spend the money on a furniture piece that I can make. So for this particular project, actually the overall budget was $2,500.
Wow.
Yes. So
and you turn that space around.
Yes. And, we work a lot with manufacturers to get donations as much as we can. But but the construction, typically, if we don't have a budget or somebody that donates their services, we do it ourselves, which is, to me, very fun. I actually enjoy, getting my hands dirty. And again, it's a very good learning experience for anybody in the industry.
It has to be gratifying too, to do pro bono work like that as well. Where did that come from? Why does it matter to you to help these community centers and programs like that?
Yeah, well, actually, I like to say that my success is really defined by the amount of lives that I impact through the designs that I enhance or the environments that I touch, because this is the reason why I became an interior designer, because you have the ability to literally change someone's life with making a better living situation or working environment for whoever it is that you're designing for.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, making a difference is very important, but the idea that you get to be creative while doing it is also a very good aspect of being an interior designer. I always thought that I was going to do fine arts, like growing up, but then I realized I probably should do something that could allow me to have a job. So I said, interior design sounds like a way that I can still be creative and also pursue the passion that I have to help others and make a difference.
Right, and it's got to make you feel really good inside as well when you have that ability to help people directly like that. Well, not just with your interior design, but with your hands as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think any sense of gratitude and being thankful for what you have and being able to turn that around into something productive is awesome. And David has a passion for dogs.
Nice.
Rocco here is an adopted dog.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. And and I love that. There's so much of that in the design community, and even on the vendor side, like ourselves. And in regard to the Bowery space that we put up on screen, I don't know if we can do that again, but what you do with a small space is amazing. I know there's a lot of conversation now, especially because of the pandemic, of how to make the best use of a layout in a space. And there's an argument of like a really big space is not necessarily good for the health, right? Because you can kind of, share the air too much. Maybe it's too loud and kinetic, and some people like, smaller spaces for concentration. So it's that balance, I guess, between making a smaller space feel bigger and making a bigger space feel more intimate. Is that how much does that tie into what you do?
But also to add to that is about how the space makes you feel. And for the Bowery Mission Project, this is, a laundry room, which a lot of people wouldn't think for this space to be like their priority to like renovate or make better. But for this organization, the women that spend time here to, do rehab and learn chores that they can later on go back into the society and, live a better life, they spend a lot of time in the laundry room. And, you saw the pictures before, like nobody wants to do laundry to begin with. And then you have to do laundry in this space, like forget about it, So it's also about like how a space makes you feel.
Let me ask you a specific question, if I may, regarding how you got involved with the NBC production of George to the Rescue. I am curious, how did they come to you? How did they find you? How did you get involved? How did you recruit the vendors to assist you?
Very good questions. This was like one of those, being at the right place at the right time. I like to think, basically, TPG is a company that does a lot of volunteer work, and they knew about the passion that I have with pro bono work and helping others. So they gave me the opportunity to represent them, and it was a great experience. It was like, I want to say 8 weeks, like the whole process. which was, not typical, like any other volunteer projects that, I told you guys about and we've seen pictures of. When you're volunteering, they usually like schedule and deadlines are not a thing. Like you do it at your own time. But, since this was on TV and everything was rushed, it was not an easy process to get the donations, but the industry was amazing. Like we got literally everything donated. There was more than 25 different manufacturers that gave in their products.
Yeah.
And materials for this project. Literally, I called everybody. Like I was not picky. I was like, okay, I need this laminate. Like whoever responded first, I just went for it because it was also like it needs to be in stock. I need it like on site in 1 week.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, so it was very fun.
Manufacturers like us, we're asked often for participation in very important situations like that, and we're more than happy in most cases whenever we can to assist. And I noticed JRM, who was the construction manager, who's a very, very large contractor in New York, they found themselves doing a much smaller project, but it was a very, I did watch this. Without naming names, the young lady who you did this for, this young girl, she was broken up by everything, and I really commend you and everyone on that project for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So tell us also now, if you would, a little bit more about your day in and day out activities at TPG as a corporate interior designer, and how the world is changing for you. Obviously, you're not in your office right now.
I'm obviously not in my office right now, and I'm not gonna lie. I like the remote work situation. I do feel like I can be more productive, except for the times that my internet goes off, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go back to the office. But thankfully, it doesn't. Oh my god, yeah! Like now I have to call my internet provider and figure it out on my own. That's like the only downside, but definitely. I feel like we've proven that we can be efficient with remote working, and that has affected, and I think it's going to continue to affect the way we think about the workplace. Maybe this whole idea of like reducing the amount of people in a space, I believe will continue to be a thing, in the future. But on my day-to-day, when it comes to like design decisions, the projects that I'm currently on, the projects are kind of like so far ahead that it didn't really make a difference for those projects, that are like in construction. But I do, hear of other new projects that we have, and TPG has set up new standards to help clients move back into the office, whether they want to do it, temporarily. Like rearrange your layouts, or permanently if it's a new project and they are just thinking ahead and knowing that they're not going to be having that many people in the office at once.
Is TPG currently closed, or are people coming in?
We're open. I was actually in yesterday. I feel like a lot of the offices, what they're doing is that they have their office open, and if you need to come in for whatever reason, then the office is open for you. So typically I go in when I have to go to the library and source for some materials.
When you're doing an interior commercial space, how do you marry your choice, personal, like for colors, your personal imagination with what a client's vision is, or I would assume sometimes the client doesn't necessarily have a clear vision. So where does your imagination play into that design world?
That's a tough question. I feel like it's very different for every project. It depends, but most of the time, if the client has a vision, you kind of like just run with it, and you give in your propose solutions based on like their aesthetics that they like. We do visioning sessions where we print out a bunch of pictures and they tell you like what they definitely wouldn't want to work in and what they would like to in terms of aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
But like me to bring in like my own touch is definitely not that easy, because clients have brands and they have very specific aesthetics that they would like to go with typically. But the George to the Rescue project, that was kind of like a different scenario because we didn't necessarily work in the same way, where we have like all these meetings and then we have to figure out how this is going to look and how this is going to look. It was more like, like do what you need to do to make the space
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. So when I do have the ability to do that, I like to play with shape and form a lot and colors, and definitely a more eclectic overall aesthetic, throwing a little bit of everything in the mix.
That sounds like Summit. You had a little bit of everything in the mix.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And on that note, we'd like to thank you for your support in the past. TPG and Summit, and we look forward to working with you again in the future as soon as possible, of course. And
Yeah, you guys are working. We're working on Newsday. Their new corporate office, which is still happening, and your wall covering looks beautiful in that boardroom. I don't know if you've seen pictures. I have to send you guys.
We haven't. That'd be great.
Yeah,
though.
we could have used them for today's episode, but definitely we'll definitely use them in some social media marketing.
Yeah. Well, earlier talking about creativity and choosing the right career, and when I was younger, I pursued acting. So there's that creative side to things. Yeah.
Nice.
And when through a friend I met. I was introduced to Mark Becker, our national sales director at Summit, and that's how I got my first interview.
I didn't know that. I thought it was on Indeed.
No, so it was someone I worked with who had a connection to a design firm, and then it somehow got back to Mark, and then Mark got back to me. And when I first talked to him about it, and it was a carpet company, and I was like, a carpet salesman. Like, I grew up in a small town in New Jersey. The carpet salesman was, just a side store on the corner. You selected some carpets, and like that was pretty much it for the most part. So it was so gratifying, and for me when I learned more about it and actually joined Summit, which I love being a part of, that it's so tactile. Like there's so many products that we have in color, and I love when designers like yourself reach out and you say, hey, I'm looking for something like this for a space. And I get really excited because I get to flip through like all our box of samples and go through images. And so for me, it like gives me just that little bit of like a sense of creative participation.
Everybody should have fun.
It's funny. Now that Alan is saying this, I'm remembering that we did get introduced to him. And I got to tell you, when we sat with Alan at, I can't even remember the name of the hotel, but we had a cup of coffee with him. And another cup of coffee, and another cup of coffee. I have learned that Alan is a coffeeholic. He always has his coffee with him. And something I've never told him, but there's a person sitting in this studio with us whose name is Joe Wilson, who I've been working with for many, many years. You can't see him. He's sitting over here. And Joe knows, and I'm going to tell Alan this right now, that when you're in the carpet business, when you're in the floor covering business, there is no getting out.
No, I've heard.
Yeah. You kind of get sucked into it, and you just can't get out. It's kind of like the carpet mob, we'll call it.
Right. No, and I'm totally cool with it. Yeah. And I'm guessing you probably feel the same about design. I mean, it's we were talking to Daphne Binder of ODT a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how being an architect, there's so many aspects of the riches of life involved in their work, history, color, design, 3 dimensions, mathematics, all that. And with design, it's the same. I mean, there's so much inspiration and resource that you can pull from when you approach a project. Do you have any major influences on you and the work that you do, whether it's, nature, spirituality, philosophy, or a particular designer?
I I don't, and I sound very boring when I say this, but honestly, my inspiration really comes from the challenges that I get
Okay.
from every particular project, if that makes sense. You know, like
No,
it's like a
absolutely.
puzzle, and I just love being able to come up with something completely different. I almost don't even like looking for inspiration because I don't want to, do that has been done. I kind of just want to, do something completely different and new that is coming out of, within me
Right.
for
Yeah.
every project that I approach. Yeah, but obviously, being inspired by nature, that's just like a given, because in interior spaces you always want to bring in that aspect of nature. And I think now more than ever, when we think about health, yes, um biophilia too, taking into account indoor air quality now more than ever, I think will definitely play a big role in the future.
Right.
And as it is, now, but more and more, you're seeing bringing nature as a form of, not just being creative, but giving the people in this space the ability to feel connected to something.
Well, we certainly know that the future is going to hold some challenges for us all.
Yeah.
And we will be there helping as much as we can. You and the interior design community. I guess with this, we'd like to say, Lisbeth, we thank you very, very much for joining our program, for coming on live, which is never an easy thing to do. And we look forward to working with you. We wish you the best. We wish you safety and health. And we hopefully will speak with you very soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
Elizabeth.
having me.
Well, thank you. So let us talk about next week's guest. Next week, we are going to have a very special guest from Germany. He's the CEO of Object Carpet, which was one of the finest mills in all of the world. We have been affiliated with Object Carpet now for the past, I guess it's about 10 or 11 years. We are the United States representative. Object Carpet has been recognized by Ernst & Young of Germany to be one of the 50 luxury brands of Germany. And this should be a very interesting meeting. Daniel Butz is the CEO. He will be with us. We will speak about their new collection called the Ippolito Flights collection and more. So we hope you join us next week at 2 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Pacific time. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can reach us at info@summit-flooring.com or call us at 877-496-3566. As always, we look forward to hearing from you. We prefer to hear any topic that you'd like to hear and for us to speak about. And until next week, I wish everyone safety and health as always. Alan, thank you very much.
Yes.
Oliver, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lisbeth. Okay, bye-bye.
See you
now.
guys. Bye.